Scuf has finally announced that they are making third-party controllers for the PlayStation 5. Is this the controller that you've been waiting for? Let's find out. Hello and welcome back to Gears and Tech. Today we're talking about the first third-party controller for the PlayStation 5, and that is the Scuf. Now, quick blurb about Scuf. Scuf have been making controllers for a lot of years now. They've got custom PlayStation 4 controllers, custom Xbox controllers. Even going back to the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, you could buy a custom Scuf controller even back then. They are a trusted name for competitive gaming, and they have unique features that really push the advantages onto the competitive gamers. Now, am I a competitive gamer? No, but I do like to have a bit of a competitive edge. So the news of the new Scuf controller was very intriguing for me, so I went to their website to have a look. Now, looking at their website, they have three models. The base model would be this, which is the Reflex. It is not out yet. It's, as you can see, coming 2022. They also have the Reflex Pro. That one is out now and you can get that controller. We will cover what it has and if you should get it after we go over all of the options, so stay tuned for that. Before we get too far into this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel down below. If you've seen some of our content already and have not subscribed, we want you to join our community. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's get back to the video. And then the top tier one, which would be the Reflex FPS, coming in at $259.99. That's a lot of money. If you think about it, you can actually get a digital edition PlayStation 5 for about that same price, as long as you can find it in the store, obviously. So is that going to be worth it? Well, let's talk about the features of the Scuf controller and if it's worth it at all. So the current one that you're able to get is the Reflex Pro. Now these have sold out. You have to get on a waiting list to get your hands on one. I am currently on that waiting list, but I'm not even sure if I want to stay on the waiting list. I will tell you why, but first we need to talk about what makes this controller unique. So let's click on Learn More. Be unstoppable. Now this is a fun 360-degree video. So the first thing you're going to notice is that the shape of that controller, this is not a Scuf controller. This is a regular PlayStation 5 black controller that has been modified to be what I affectionately call my elite controller. Now, you'll notice the shape of this controller is the same as the shape of that controller. That's because the Scuf controller starts its life as a PlayStation 5 controller. You may notice some similarities here with some other brands. We will talk about that too. The biggest change is on the back. These are in the industry, we know these as the K buttons. You've got K1, K2, K3, and K4. They are your back buttons. Now, I achieve my back buttons by using the Extreme Rate mod kit. You'll notice that when you compare this to the Scuf, it is completely different. The design is different. Everything's different. It is one of the most unique features of the new Scuf controller that nobody else is doing. So here you can see they're cycling through. The back paddles are neat. They've got their own shell that has a grippy design to it, which is nice because my biggest complaint with the PlayStation 5 controller is how slippery this is, how easily it slides out of your hands. The other thing I like, the back buttons on here are designed a lot better than what these ones are. These ones are too clicky. And I click them too easily. When you pick it up, you gotta just kind of hold the controller just right so that you don't accidentally start clicking buttons when you don't want to. So here they talk about the remappable rear paddles. Now, the remappable rear paddles have profiles. You can save a profile to it. So you're not always trying to remap the paddles. You just have to load the profile. So if you have a certain game that you play, you load the profile for that game. Then when you switch to a different game, you just load the profile for that game rather than trying to remap for buttons all the time. I only play the same games, so I don't need the profiles, but it will be handy for those gamers who have a lot of different games that they're playing at the same time. Now this model uses, I mean, they're trying to be real marketing savvy with this, adaptive or instant triggers. They have the standard PlayStation 5 adaptive triggers. So what they're trying to talk about is it adds a trigger stop to it, but it really doesn't work good. I found myself clicking through the trigger stop and it's not firm enough for me. So there's no change to the triggers on this controller. So far, all we've got is funky colors, a little bit of rear grip, and remappable buttons. So here, they're talking about the performance grip. Awesome. The profile switcher. So we talked about that already. You can click this button, switch to your different profiles on the fly or whatever without having to remap all 4 buttons, which is really nice. Interchangeable thumbsticks. I'm glad they brought this up. Now, when they talk about interchangeable thumbsticks, again, they're being a little bit sneaky. If you look at the PlayStation 4 Scuf controller options, they have some where the entire thumbstick is able to be twisted and pulled out. You can separate the analog controls. That way, when your controller starts to develop drift, you can replace just that module without having to replace the entire controller. Now, the way they word this, they would make you think replaceable thumbsticks. What they are talking about is this. This right here is a replaceable thumbstick. You can see I've got no thumbstick there now. And then I can go to this handy little case here. I'll put that right there. And then they talk about you can get ones that have a mushroom top. You can get one that has a tall mushroom top. You can get one that has a medium mushroom top. You can get one that has low profile domed top. And these all come in this kit. Now, this is not, again, this is not a Scuf controller, but these features that they're talking about are not unique. I have these features on my PlayStation 5 controller already with replaceable thumbsticks. I will talk about those a little bit more because I like those. And then removable faceplate trim. All PlayStation 5 controllers have a removable faceplate trim. They all have it. You can go on to Amazon, and I'll put links in the description, where you can get removable faceplate trims and make it whatever color you want. All they're saying is, our controller is actually a PlayStation 5 controller, and any mods that you can put on a PlayStation 5 controller will also work on our Scuf controller. Now that's the end of the features for this controller, the Reflex Pro. So let's talk about what makes it unique from a regular PlayStation 5 controller. The remappable back buttons and the interchangeable thumbsticks. Now, I've made a video recently that shows you how to achieve most of the things that they're doing in this video here for very, very, very cheap. I will link that video in the description. I might put a card up over here for that video. If you don't have $229 US to spend on a Scuf controller, you can make your own for less than 50 bucks. Less than 50 bucks. And I'll show you exactly how to do that in my other video. The one that interests me the most is the Reflex FPS. The first thing the FPS has is the remappable paddles, which we already talked about for the other model. It's the same thing here. They are totally remappable. They've got that memory just like before. They also have the profile switcher just like before. Here's where the difference is. They have removed the adaptive triggers and they have put in clicky triggers, just like this. You can see here I've got clicky triggers on this controller already, which make it so it has very low throw. Clicky triggers are a game changer in first-person shooter games, which is why this is affectionately known as the Scuf Reflex FPS, first-person shooter. If you're a first-person shooter gamer, this is the controller that you're looking for. Maybe. I'm gonna give you my recommendations at the end of this video, so make sure you stick around for that. They've removed the motors and everything, so there's no force feedback, there's no adaptive triggers, there's no none of that. So the controller is a lot lighter to hold in your hand. I just disable those features in the settings, so it's not a big deal for me. But this controller is $259. So that's a lot of money. You'll remember at the beginning of the video, I said that this is the first third-party controller that's actually a first-party controller. So a lot of guys are getting really excited because they're claiming to be third party. They are not third party. If you open up a Scuf controller, what you will find is the exact same guts as a PlayStation 5 controller. That's because Scuf is buying the controller technology. What I don't know is if they're getting the cases as well. If they're just buying the entire controller, I think that because they're making their own backside for this, they have to anyway to put the paddles on, but they do need the front side. The only way that they can have their controller look exactly the same as the Sony controller is if they're buying a Sony controller. Sony has patents on this design. You can't just go and copy it and get away with it. Sony will sue you. If you don't believe me, talk to the companies that are making special front and back plates for the PlayStation 5 and how they got sued for making something similar. Sony would sue you if you made a copy of their controller. Unless you bought their controller, then you have the rights to do whatever you want with it. Modifying it and selling it might be in a gray area, but so far Sony doesn't care. The Scuf will register as a regular PlayStation 5 controller, which means it will actually update if you plug it into your PlayStation 5 just like a regular PlayStation 5 controller. Now, there are other companies that are already doing something like this. AIM Controllers comes to mind. They've been buying factory PlayStation 5 controllers. They've been installing the extreme rate back buttons on, making custom faceplates, and installing all of the same options that Scuf have at roughly the same price. For me, this causes me some concern. Because if a brand like Scuf, who is known for making their own third-party controllers, are not able to make a true third-party controller for the PlayStation 5, does that mean Sony is not going to license third-party controllers at all? Or is it just a matter of time? Eventually, I would like to see a true Scuf controller with a replaceable thumbstick. Not just the stick, but the entire guts. Because these controllers suffer from controller drift. The Scuf controller will also suffer from controller drift. The analog stick has not been updated to prevent the controller drift problem. So you could buy your $300 controller and have it start getting drift in 3 months of gaming. And then what do? You can't swap the module. You have to throw the controller out and get a whole new one. That leads me to, what should I do? Should I buy a Scuf controller, or are there other options? Now, I've made enough videos already showing you this controller right here. I built this controller from a regular PlayStation controller. I added the clicky triggers, I added the back buttons, I added the controller sticks. This controller right here is identical. This controller is actually completely identical to the Scuf Reflex FPS with one exception. That would be the back buttons. So I do not have 4 back paddles and the orientation is slightly different. That's the exception. Of course, I don't have the rubber grips, but I've gotten used to it. The controller doesn't fall out of my hands anymore. So the reality is you can get your Scuf controller right now for about $150 with all of the same features as the FPS Reflex that they're selling for $259. That's $100 savings. I'll put a link in the description for all of the parts that you need to build this controller, and then also the link to the video where I show you how to actually make this controller. You don't need to wait for Scuf. This is not the controller that we've been waiting for, and it's really, I'm disappointed that everyone's saying it's a third-party controller. It isn't. It just isn't. Hey, thanks for watching all the way to the end of this video. We hope you enjoy the content in this video, and we'd love to have you come back. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And for those subscribers who are looking for that extra special thing that you can do to support this channel, consider joining our members group. That's where we're building this community, the Gears and Tech community, where we can all enjoy content together. You'll get special perks, which we'd love for you to check out by clicking the link down below. For those of you who are just happy to watch the video, that's okay too. You can check out some of our other content right over here, where we've got some previous videos that have already been uploaded and enjoyed by many of our viewers already. We do hope to see you again. This has been Gears and Tech. Have a great day.